Perfect. We await the usual 10 minutes to let the time for people to connect. Good afternoon or good morning to everyone. We are happy to join the workshop today. I am Luigi Tunarelli, partner of Tunarelli Law Firm. As you may know, we are an Italian law firm based in Italy with office in most Italian city, but of course with an office and a practice in China. We today we would like to discuss about the healthcare industry in China and the opportunity in this kind of field for foreign company. We will do it with our head of healthcare practice, my colleague Andrea Sorgato, and we are glad to have the contribution of a regulatory affair company, TigerMed, that is a company supporting foreign and local player in the Chinese market for what concern regulatory affairs. So we thank Mr. Lee to bring to the event of today his deep expertise in this kind of field. And in order to have a voice more close to the business, we don't want just to be here as a service company to give our technical point of view. We want to share, and we are happy to share the experience of a successful company in the medical device industry here in the Chinese market, Euroset, and we have the pleasure to listen to the experience of Mr. Stefano Sabatini, General Manager of Euroset China. I think that even with the difficulties that the world is facing nowadays, the problem in working on an international level that all the companies are facing, the need and the will of business operator to still work in a difficult market like China is the most clear evidence of how nowadays whoever wants to play on a global level need to have in mind China, need to have in mind the opportunity that this market can offer. Of course, it is not anymore, and maybe it's never been, a cheap market. It's a market that is even more competitive than before. It's a market that requires technical expertise. It's a market that requires professional skill, and we try to organize this kind of event like the webinar of today in order to share what is our experience and in order to provide some basic information that will enable companies and business operators to better understand if, first of all, the Chinese market is something they are interested in, and after that, understand how to develop and try to get the best of this opportunity. I would close here this brief introduction. I will give the word to my colleague, Mr. Andrea Sorgato, that will provide introduction on the legal framework that foreign investors are facing in this kind of industry in China. Thank again, everyone. Just a reminder, if you have any question for the speaker, please write it in the chat, and we will, at the end of the speech or at the end of the event, address to the guest of today. Thank you again to everyone, and hope to provide some useful information. Please, Andrea. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Luigi. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone. Good afternoon for those attending from China. We are here in the middle of a typhoon, so let's hope this not affect our webinar. I'm going to share my screen in order to give some information, some basic information about the legal and commercial issues on registration and commercialization of imported medical devices in China, and the role that innovation can play in this process, and especially for imported medical devices. As Luigi said, this Chinese market is not an easy market. Of course, it's attractive because it's very wide, but it's challenging as well. And for those in foreign manufacturer in medical device field, is more and more important to have a knowledge about the legal framework and about some topics that I would say are beyond the law, because belongs to the daily practice of the medical device business in this country. Here some basic information about this market. You can see the main details about the Chinese medical device market. We are talking about the second market in the world, if we consider the sales revenue, and this market is just behind the United States, and with the of course with the annual growth rate very impressive, because from 2019 to 2020 the growth rate has been more than 14%, and as you can see in the last 4 or 5 years the growth rate was almost like this, 14–15% in terms of sales revenue. Of course, we are talking about the first market in the world in terms of the general population, in terms of potential patient, because China is the most populated country in the world, with 1.4 billion people, according to the last census that has been implemented in China last year. In the recent years, we can say here you can see the pathway that the Chinese government is implementing to provide China with remarkable reforms in the medical device market. These reforms has been implemented since 2014, with the first revision, the first new version of Regulation of Supervision and Administration of Medical Devices, the first revision after 14 years. And then, almost in the same time, with the approval of 2 very important plans, China Manufacturing 2025 in 2015, and Healthy China 2030 the following year in 2016. According to these plans, Chinese government aims to create in China a modern and, compared with the Western countries, similar healthcare system with advanced treatments in terms of medicines, in terms of devices to be used, and in terms of capacity of the healthcare system to cover the expenses related to the healthcare treatment. And this is was the first step of the process that is still going on, because as you can see, almost every year Chinese government issued new regulations about main topics in this field. And for the medical device registration and administration rules, we are talking now about the new regulation that has been approved in June 2021, that's effective since 2021, and the new administrative measure for the registration and filing of medical devices that has been issued a couple of weeks ago, September 1st, 2021, and that will be effective within a couple of weeks. So we are in the middle of this way. And based on these two regulations, we can say that China has fully implemented this project of provide itself with a new comprehensive regulation about the medical devices and related to the main phases of registration and all phases related to the post-marketing activity, which is the post-marketing surveillance, the adverse event, the adverse event management of adverse event, and the liabilities related to this business. Actually, these two regulations extend. The main effect is that these two regulations extend countrywide recent reforms that has been introduced in the previous years as a pilot project or by specific provision. For example, the MAH system. MAH system has been, which means marketing authorization holder system, has been introduced in China first for drugs and then for medical device as a pilot project in 2018. And this is a system that allows, for example, manufacturer, or let's see, the owner of the registration certificate, so the owner of the product, to decide whether produce in China the medical device or entrust a third parties to produce on their behalf the device. So to split two roles, the ownership of the product and the manufacturing of the product without, for example, without selling the product to another owner. So this is the system that now is implemented countrywide. As well, the clinical trial implying the consent that allows to applicants for clinical trial to wait only 60 days before starting with the clinical trial protocol implementation, and other reforms such as the large-scale medical device plan and some specific reforms. Last but not least, the innovative medical device registration, which has been implemented with a regulation, with an announcement in 2018, and now has been put within the new administrative measure for the registration of file of medical device, which will come into force in next October 1st. What I would like to stress and point out is this: what is the main project of this reform? Is the approach of the Chinese government. We are used to consider the approach of the Chinese authorities towards the foreign manufacturers as a sort of double track. Also in the regulation in China, we are used to consider that there is a general regulation for domestic products and businesses, and there is aside a specific regulation integrative of the first one for the foreign business and foreign manufacturers. And this definitely has been the approach also for medical device market in the recent years. But from 2020 on, and definitely with this new regulation that has been implemented in the 2021 and has been enforced since June 1st, the approach has changed, because if you consider this new regulation, the provisions expressly dedicated to foreign manufacturer and foreign medical devices very few, because the approach is mutual, because the first, in the recent year, the target and the focus was the difference, I said before, between domestic on one side and foreign and on the other side. Now the focus on this regulation, this new regulation, is no longer the manufacturer. The focus is the product, as the product, the medical device, is a medical device. No matter what, no matter who is the producer, if domestic or foreign. So all provision of this new regulation included the liabilities, which has been strengthened a lot, especially for non-compliant behavior related, for example, to adverse events, related to batch recall, related to the post-marketing surveillance, all these kind of liability are put on the shoulder on the respective liable party and on the whole chain of the whole life of the medical device. I mean, the manufacturers first, the registrants, the record filing parties, the record file or registrant. There is a difference between the record filing on one side and registrant on the other side, because it depends on the class of the medical device belong. If there is on class 1 medical device is a record filing, if there is a class 2 and class 3 medical devices, there is a registrant who apply for the registration. And also for business operators and user entities. Business operators is a general category that included, for example, legal agent, that included distributor, that including any party, howsoever involved in the life of the medical device. So the focus of the new regulation is protect human beings' health and safety. And the importance, whether the producer, manufacturer is foreign or domestic, is secondary compared to the main focus of the new regulations. With reference to innovative medical device, which is one of the topics of our webinar, we must say something first about what I would say the typical innovation. I mean the innovation which has been regulated expressly by law. And in Chinese law system, in this topic, there is no change between the previous regulation, 2018, and the new regulation that will come into force in October, contained in the administrative measure we talked before. The legal framework is basically the same. So the innovation is linked to the ownership by itself or by license of a patent. The patent duly registered in China, related, of course, to the core technology of the medical devices. This is not a news, it is a traditional approach to the innovation held by Chinese law system. And this has been confirmed by the new regulation. So there is no novelty about this. The innovation properly viewed in the technical point of view is linked to the ownership of a patent or the ownership, for example, of a prototype that is still finished in terms of research, in terms of report of this research. So this is not a news, but this is not the only way for Chinese law system to talk about innovation, because in the recent years, the Chinese authorities became aware that innovation is a target, and this is a mandatory target for the Chinese healthcare system in order to become an effective and modern healthcare system. China needs to improve itself and to improve the level and the quality and the safety of devices uses within the country in a short time. So there is a general plan, I talked before, which is the China Healthy China 2030. But aside this plan, Chinese authorities issued some special policies that enforce the capacity of the country to attract innovative investments. And here you can see the main two regulations. The first one is related to the Greater Bay Area and the Hong Kong, Macau. The Greater Bay Area is a geographic area which include Hong Kong, Macau, and 9 municipalities of the Guangdong province. And a specific policy has been approved by a joint announcement by NMPA, which is the administration of the Chinese government, who deals with the medical device and medical products, generally speaking, and the state administration of market regulation. And this announcement is with the purpose of let those products that have been already approved in Hong Kong and Macau system to be used in the Greater Bay Area hospitals where they are urgently needed, or where there are some hospitals that would like to use it for the treatments, in case that these devices have advanced clinical application. This definition, advanced clinical application, is different than the innovation we talked before. We don't talk about the ownership of patents. We talk about the actual features of the product and the project of this hospital located in this area to use it within their premises. Although these products are not registered in China mainland. So this is the first approach to, and this is interesting, within the purpose, the Chinese authorities declared that the purpose is reduce costs of innovation. And you can see within the inverted comma this sentence, because this is expressive purpose pursued by the Chinese authorities. China government is perfectly aware that innovation is an opportunity, but innovation is also a time-consuming and expensive activity. And in order to accelerate this process, they created this special area in order to let some hospitals within the Greater Bay Area, that we consider the Greater Bay Area has more or less 70 million people, residents. So we are talking about a space and a population that is comparable with Italy and with a European country, to make the one system, a unique system between the regions of Hong Kong and Macau and some territories that belongs to China mainland. The second one you can see in the right part of the slide is a Hainan Boao-Lechen International Medical Tourism Pilot Zone. That is similar to the first one, but with the different purpose to boost the medical tourism in Hainan Island, and but with the same approach, let this product to be sold, that foreign product to be sold, marketing in a restricted area, in this case Hainan. Although this kind of this product has not the registration before the China National Medical Product Administration. You can see in the bottom part some critical points for the time being. For example, for the first one, there is only one hospital designated for this program. So maybe there is a long way to go in order to fully implement this regulation, but the approach is the same we talked before. China is facing an important challenge, an important internal challenge, provide their residents, Chinese citizens, with a comprehensive and covered healthcare assistance without let people spending a lot of money in terms of out-of-pocket participation. So these kind of programs go in the same direction we talked before, in order to create an innovation de facto, which is not linked to an ownership of the patent, but that is focused on the actual features of the products, especially foreigners. After talking about what the law provides, of course, in general terms, without claiming to be exhaustive, but just to have general information, general framework about the system, now I think it's important to talk about what is beyond the law. So how to manage the foreign medical device in China, which kind of key partners a foreign investor have to choose. And you can see three main roles. The first one and the second one, I think, are more known, especially the CRO, the Contract Research Organization, which is a mandatory partner, of course, in order to implement the preclinical and the clinical evaluation of the product, which is definitely one of the most challenging phase for any manufacturer, not only for foreign ones, but of course also for domestic. And the second one is the role of a legal agent is very, very important. This is specific for imported medical device, because according to the Chinese law, any foreign producer and any foreign investor who would like to register a product in order to sell, of course, this product in China must have a legal agent registered in the country. This legal agent is a sort of representative of the foreign investor towards any public authority, especially for those tasks that are related to the compliance. So the quality system, the post-marketing surveillance, the traceability, and the relationships towards the National Medical Product Administrator. And we will talk about the legal agent soon. And the third is I called it dealer. Dealer actually is a generic term. In Chinese, very often we found legal agent and dealer written in the same way, Dalian, but this expression has different meanings if we talk about regulatory tasks and we talk about legal agent, or we talk about some commercial issues in the post-marketing, in the post-registration phase, in order to put the product within the public procurement tenders and in order to let the product be sold to the final users, to the hospitals. This third partner, the dealer, is I think in our experience, is the most challenging one, because the law doesn't help us to understand who it is and who are the limits of the role of the dealer in the relationship between the foreign manufacturer on one side and the final users and the purchaser entity on the other side. Of course, the target, as you can see, is the market. So we need to understand all these three roles in a deep way in order to achieve the goal, which is let the product be sold and purchased by the final users. What does dealer mean in the Chinese practice? This is actually a challenge. This is a very gray area because there is no general rule about this. Where the registration we saw before, the registration process and the whole phase related to trials and the role, let's say, of the legal agent is fully regulated by national regulation and measures. The phase of marketing, properly intended, so the phase of purchasing for the product already registered by the final user is a gray area because there is no national regulation about this. Any province is, let's say, free to regulate itself with a high level of autonomy. And until today, we saw the medical device procurement tenders regulated by provincial announcements for procurement tenders with different qualification for dealers of imported medical device. This is the point. Any imported medical device must be represented towards the purchaser entity by a dealer. And this dealer have different qualification and roles are related to different provinces. We see in the right part several ways in different provinces regulated this aspect in a different way. So the dealer can be sometimes the trading company invested by the foreign manufacturer. I mean the Chinese branch. The Chinese branch, of course, in this case, must have a trading license in order to be registered in the platform. Or the legal agent, which has been designated during the registration process and whose name is registered in the certificate issued by the NMPA when the product has been registered in order to be marketed in China. Or sometimes we find the qualification as master dealer or mainland exclusive master dealer. This is the point, because if this qualification, master dealer or mainland exclusive master dealer, was implemented countrywide, any foreign manufacturer must have just one distributor for the whole country. But this basically is not true, even if in the practice, in the daily life, distributor usually urge a foreign manufacturer to appoint as master dealer, claiming the duty to have this qualification for participating in public procurement tenders. But sometimes this is true, sometimes it's not. It depends on the single province, each province provisions and provincial announcement for tenders. So the suggestion is, in this case, check in a close manner the actual qualification of the dealer according to the announcement and to the tender which has been issued by each provinces, because sometimes this we see in the practice, provincial authorities and provincial platforms allow distributors to be appointed as a master dealer for the concerned territory, because they don't care in other provinces what is the regulation. They just care, they just want to have one counterpart to discuss with, without having so many representatives for the one product. This is understandable, which is not understandable as force one manufacturer to have just one distributor for the whole country. This is the situation until today, but as you can see in the right part, the situation is going to change. Why? Because as happened for drugs, the government has the purpose with the same target we discussed before. So with the target to improve for the whole country, the whole healthcare system. So have with the same expenditure, with the same healthcare expenditure rates, to have an improvement, significant improvement in the quality and in the level of healthcare assistance. Of course, this has an impact on the possibility to and the capacity to pay for medical devices. So there is the importance of to save money and to have prices cutting with remarkable rates. So as happened for drugs, for the medical devices in recent year, in 2020, definitely in 2020, but also in the recent year for some interprovincial tenders, has been launched some volume-based procurement. VBP means volume-based procurement. That means these are tenders that put together the price with a huge quantity, the capacity to provide, to furnish a huge quantity of products. And this kind of approach has been already implemented in the medical device market for consumables, for high-value medical consumables. Why this? Because this kind of products can be purchased since there are consumables, they can be used just once. They must be provided in a huge quantity. So the Chinese government started from this kind of product in order to implement also for medical devices this kind of procurement tender procedure, which is very different if compared with provincial tenders for the time being implemented by provinces, by provincial governments, because of course, for volume-based procurement, the target is to achieve a cut price very, very significant. You can see in the interprovincial tenders for some certain medical device launched, for example, for Jiangsu by Jiangsu province in, I think, in 2019, the price cut up reached 96%. Compared with the offer price. So the trend of this phase is definitely how to say, is involved in a deep change that has not been put within some specific regulation. So in order to approach, just to conclude, in order to approach the Chinese market, an investor must consider on one side for the registration and for market access of a regulatory point of view, consider the reforms that have been put in place by Chinese government in the recent year. But on the other side, consider that in order to achieve the final target, which is put the product within the market and let the product being sold, also we must consider this area, this purchasement area which is not regulated by specific national regulation, but which follow a different approach in a way I spoke before. Thank you for your attention. Of course, if you have any question, I'm more than willing to give the information, the needed information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrea, for your presentation. This is a very interesting element to discuss about. We do have some questions, but I would suggest to address all the questions at the end of the speech of all three speakers of today. We are glad to know that China confirmed its trend in equalize the position of domestic and foreign player. We have seen this in the past in the contract law. We have seen this last year with entering force of the foreign investment law, and we see this according to your presentation of today. So it's a good news that China confirmed this kind of attitude. It also confirmed the fact to seek for advanced technology. So whoever is interested to enter and develop the Chinese market need first of all to understand if the product are interesting for China. So if because we can understand that the competition is very high and it is important to propose to the Chinese market interesting technology for the player. And finally, we do understand that it's essential to find the right partner, the key partner, as you were mentioned. So coming to this, we're very happy to have with us the company TigerMed, that, as I mentioned at the beginning, is a regulatory affair company, is also working as a CRO, so can give to the attendee of today a brief overview about the clinical evaluation of a medical device. We know this is often a difficult burden to overcome for whoever is interested to enter in the market, but we know that the company working in this field, they're well aware, and we thank Mr. Lee to share with us his expertise. Please, Mr. Lee, you have the ground. Thanks.
Thank you. So first of all, good afternoon and good morning to everybody. Firstly, I want to say thank you for taking time to attend our webinar, and I want to send my best wishes to all of you from China. So today I want to give an introduction about the registration of imported medical device in China, the regulatory analysis and the clinical evaluation. So my presentation will include 4 parts. The first one is about the classification strategy. Second one is registration pathway strategy. Third one is clinical evaluation pathway. And the last one is special registration pathway or policy. So about the first one, the classification strategy. For the medical devices in China, there are 3 classes, class 1, 2, and 3. The classification is based on the risk level of the devices. Class 1 medical device has the lowest risk, and the class 3 medical device has the highest risk. NMPA issued several catalogs about the medical device classification, including order number 104 in 2017, the classification catalog of the medical device, the order number 8 in 2014, the class 1 medical device catalog, the order number 147 in 2020, the announcement of NMPA on adjusting some contents about the classification catalog of medical device. And also there's some other medical device classification announcements by NMPA that we can use for the reference. For example, if the applicant applies for the medical device classification to NMPA, NMPA will issue the official announcement regularly. This can be the reference. The second part is about the regulation pathway strategy. In China, the medical device applications can have different types. The first one is about the classification application or the attribute definition application. This happens when we cannot be sure about the classification of the device, or we cannot be sure that the product belongs to medical device, pharmaceutical product, or a drug device combination product. For the Class 1 medical device, we need to file it for record at NMPA. This applies for the device that is clearly defined as Class 1 medical device in the classification catalog, or the Class 1 product defined by NMPA after the classification application. For Class 2 and Class 3 medical device, we need to submit the medical device new registration at NMPA. This will be applied for the device that is clearly defined as Class 2 or Class 3 medical device in the catalog, or the Class 2 or Class 3 medical device defined by NMPA after the classification application. For the clinical trial approval application, this only applies for only a few Class 3 medical device regulated by NMPA, by which means we need to submit the approval application to NMPA before we conduct the China clinical trial. There are some key points about the registration strategy. The first one is to know how many registration units are in this application, or in other way, how many NMPA certificates we shall apply for it. For example, in the European, a system may be approved by the CE notified body, but in China, we need to apply for several certificates. Sometimes even the classification is different in China. The second point is about whether some procedures are required. For example, the classification application or attribute definition application, whether we need to apply for the clinical trial approval, whether there will be a medical device quality management system inspection, or if NMPA will organize the expert panel meeting. The third point is about the marketing status of the country of origin or area. Because for the imported medical device, the product shall be approved to be marketed by the local government in its original manufacturing country first, then the China NMPA registration application can be initiated. The next point is to determine the Chinese name of the company or the medical device. Because right now the NMPA requires the applicant to choose a Chinese translation for the applicant's company name and also the medical device name. The fifth point is about the clinical evaluation pathway. We need to know whether the clinical trial is needed, whether the medical device is in the clinical trial approval catalog, or whether overseas clinical trial data is available. The next point is about the unique device identification or the UDI code status, because this code is also required by NMPA in order to monitor the post-marketing activities. The last point is about whether some special pathways are available. For example, the innovative medical device review, the preferential approval procedure, or the medical device that is clinical urgently needed, or the medical device for rare disease. This is a registration flowchart to demonstrate the China NMPA medical device new registration procedure. Firstly, we need to make sure that the registration strategy is confirmed. Then we need to prepare the technical requirement based on the product and also the China national and industrial standards. We need to prepare the samples for the type testing, and we will conduct the type testing in China NMPA approved testing centers. At the same time, we need to prepare the registration documents and also the clinical evaluation materials. If we need to do the China clinical trial or MRCT, the multi-regional clinical trial, we need to follow the clinical trial requirements. And also for some certain devices, we need to apply for the clinical trial approval. If there's no need for the clinical trial, we can submit all documents and submit to NMPA for the pre-review and acceptance. The first round of the technical review will take 60 working days for Class 2 medical device and 90 working days for Class 3 medical device. At the same time, if NMPA thinks it's needed to be inspected, the NMPA will organize the quality system inspection to the manufacturing site. After the first round of the technical review, the supplementary documents notice will be given to the applicant, and supplementary documents need to be prepared within 1 year after receiving the notice. After we prepare the supplementary documents, we will submit to MPA for the pre-review. This will take around 20 working days. Then MPA will initiate the second round technical review, and it will take 60 working days. If MPA thinks it's okay for the applicant, it will begin the administrative approval procedure for 20 working days, and the final medical device certificate issue will be issued within 10 working days. There are 3 points in this flowchart. The first one is about the MRCT. So if there involves China clinical trial sites, the medical device type testing report must be obtained before the China site's ethical committee approval. The second point is about the medical device if it is in the MPA clinical trial exemption catalog, or we can provide a clinical evaluation with a predicate medical device, or we can provide the clinical evaluation with overseas clinical trial data, then the China clinical trial could be waived. The last point is about the MPA expert panel meeting. If MPA organizes this meeting during the technical review, the review timeline will be extended. The third part is about the clinical evaluation pathway. In China, the clinical evaluation has 2 options, the non-clinical evaluation and also the clinical trial. NMPA issued a catalog that certain medical devices are exempted from the clinical trial. When submitting the registration application for these devices, a clinical evaluation document is required to be submitted as well. The other way of clinical evaluation is to prepare the clinical evaluation report with a predicate device. The declaring device and also the predicate device will be compared, and the data obtained from clinical trials or clinical use of the predicate medical device will be summarized and evaluated. In this way, the efficacy and safety for the declaring device will be proved. Concerning the clinical trial, the MPA accepts the overseas clinical trial data or the China clinical trial data. The last part is about special registration pathway or policies. The first one is about the innovative medical device approval, special approval procedure application. This will be applied to the first establishment in China and has international advantages medical devices. The China patent is required. Secondly is the preferential approval procedure for the medical device, treating the rare disease, treating the elder and children disease, or for the emergency use, etc. For transferring the medical devices production from abroad to China mainland, the MPA also has the related special regulation. Basically, the registration difficulty will be lowered to some extent. MPA also has some special regulations regarding the Boao Hainan district, the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area. Concerning the innovative medical device application, the submission time is before the new registration submission. It will be applied for both Class 2 and Class 3 medical device. Because in accordance with the principle of the MPA's early involvement, specific review assignment and scientific review, but the review standard will not be lowered and the procedures will not be reduced. The priority will be given to the innovative medical device, and the communication between MPA and also the applicants will be facilitated. For the process, it will be same as the normal Class 2 or Class 3 medical device registration process, but the MPA will review the innovative medical device in priority. For the preferential approval procedures for medical device, It will be applied for both class 2 and class 3 medical device. For the medical device that diagnose or treat rare disease, malignant tumor, peculiar and common disease for the elder, and currently there's no effective diagnosis or treatment, or the device is dedicated to children and having obvious clinical advantage, or there's an urgent clinical need, but there's no similar medical device that has been approved by the NMPA. We can apply for the preferential approval procedure. Secondly, for the medical device listed in China National Science and Technology Major Projects, or the China National Key Research and Development Plans, we can apply for the preferential approval procedure. There are some other devices that can meet this requirement as well. To transfer the imported medical device to China domestic medical device, the applicant must be the foreign invested enterprise established in China. The imported medical device must be already approved in China, and also the manufacturing factory must be also based in China. Because when applying for the registration, some technical documents can be utilized again. For example, the product summary, the non-clinical trial or clinical trial documents, the risk analysis documents, and some other technical documents. I will give another example about the special policies, the Boao Hainan district. The first policy is about the initial trial and initial use policy. For the medical device that is urgently needed by the medical institutions in Boao pilot zone, and there's no similar device approved in China, the Hainan provincial government shall approve for the import and use in the designated medical institutions. For the device in urgent clinical need that is already approved in overseas market and obtain successful clinical application experience, we can try this policy. The second one is about the real-world study in Hainan, the RWS. Currently, we know that the RWS data can be used for the MP registration, usually as the supportive clinical trial data in the clinical evaluation. So this is basically my introduction about the China regulatory requirement and also the clinical evaluation pathways and some other concerning points. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. This, as usual, are very important information that the company needs to receive before value, and in order to properly value the possibility to start an adventure in China. Of course, we have discussed about the importance of finding the right partner and the service provider, but the market is for the business operator. So we can provide suggestions, we can provide technical support, but at the end, the decision making and the people actually taking care of the job shall be the company and its management. So in order to have this perspective, we are glad to welcome Mr. Sabatini, General Manager of Aeroset China. Please, Mr. Sabatini, I give you the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, let me share my screen and let me know if you can see my screen first. Can you see it?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So, well, my name is Stefano, and the General Manager of Euroset's Suzhou Medical Devices. First and foremost, I would like to thank Studio Zunarelli for giving us this great opportunity to share Euroset's experience in challenging the Chinese medical devices market, and also all the attendees that take the time to join this webinar session. So my presentation, it will not be a technical presentation, rather you should consider it as a beautiful story of an Italian company, a small Italian company, that have been able to open a branch and have a business in China. Well, let's start saying something about Eurosets, where Eurosets is. Euroset is an Italian company, said before, which is based in the north part of Italy, within the biomedical valley. This area, not a big area, if I may say so, at any rate is employing over 5,000 people, but more important is that it's generating around the 2% of the Italy GDP, gross domestic products. That means, of course, that for the Italian economy, this small area is so important. I said before, Eurosets is in this biomedical valley. The biomedical valley is surrounded by other valleys, well-known valleys, like packaging valleys here in Modena, and the well-known motor valley with Lamborghini, Ducati, Ferrari, and many others. And also, yes, the biomedical valley. As you may see from this, just a moment, from this picture, within the biomedical valley, there are plenty of companies, facilities. Most of them, major part of them, are multinationals, like Medtronic, the market leader in medical devices, has two manufacturing facility here in this area, and Baxter, B. Braun, Fresenius, Livanov, market leader in cardiopulmonary business, and other small, medium-sized company like Eurosets. Of course, it's not easy to deal, or let's say fighting, if I may say so, against with those big giants, but thanks by our core competence as Eurosets, the research and development, and the focus in innovation, continuous innovation, allow us to have our say. Few words about why Eurosets exists. So in other terms, the mission of Eurosets. Yes, we are a Italian medical devices company, and our mission is to introducing innovation into conventional solutions. Innovation means not only creating new products, but also adapting different approach that in order to be very close to the users, the healthcare professionals, trying to respond in a very practical way to their different needs. As said before, and very important, not only products, but also much other. The innovation is much other, processes and strategy, as we will see later on during my presentation. Our vision, important, is crucial to have a clear vision, high level, clear vision. The vision is where Eurosets want to go. So in other terms, our vision is help people to get back the things they love to do. So that means that we, as a medical devices company, we can say that we are a patient-centric organization. Our patient-centric culture put patients first, and we work all together. We listen to to the healthcare professionals' therapeutics needs, trying to restore the health of our patients. Very important because if we are here, if we have been able to open up a branch and have business in China, is because of our group, our owner, Gruppo Villa Maria. We can say that Eurosets is part of Gruppo Villa Maria. Gruppo Villa Maria acquired Eurosets back in 1998, almost 20 years ago. Gruppo Villa Maria is a well-known brand here in Europe. It's present in 9 Italian regions, but also outside of Italy, in France, Poland, Albania, Russia. And we can say that Gruppo Villa Maria is an Italian center of excellence, which is focusing on healthcare, research, biomedical industry, indeed they both Eurosets, thermal wellness, services for company. The goal of Gruppo Villa Maria is to promote the welfare and the quality of life. What about Eurosets? And then we will talk about our journey in China. Eurosets, here you can see What are the main business areas? So cardiopulmonary, ECLS, wound and blood management. Cardiopulmonary includes products like oxygenator, like custom packs, cardiopage. So what is required for the cardiopulmonary bypass? While ECLS, which is our flagship, includes two main products, ECMO, which is getting more and more popular, backed by COVID-19. Indeed, patients hospitalized suffering severe COVID-19 sometimes are treated with ECMO oxygenator. We have ECMO. We have also another unique therapeutic machine able to run a CO2 removal for patients suffering ARDS and COPD. And then also wound and blood management, basically orthopedic products. What is important here, and what I said before, is, you know, the vision, have a clear vision. Also, when you open a new branch, when you try to go in another country, to have a clear vision. And that's the result. Our vision is to help people getting back to do the things they love. And here, that's the result. In the last 5 years, more than 2.5 million patients were treated with our products. More than 1 million oxygenator from 2K7, from 2K4, 1.5 million orthopedic products, orthopedics. That's the picture in 2K19, back 2 years ago, when I joined the company. That was the picture. Italy, 20%, export outside of Italy, 80%. This slide, this picture is very important, because behind these two numbers, there is a strategy. There is an internationalization process that started a few years before, with the opening of new branches in Europe, France, Belgium, Germany, and then United Kingdom. 2018, end of 2019, we opened a branch in China, in Suzhou, close to Shanghai. And a few months ago, we also opened a branch in the Middle East area. This is because internationalization process can be considered as an innovation, and it's something that if you want to stay and to play against big giants, something that must be included in your strategic plan. I would like to say just something about what's the questions. So we asked questions to ourselves in 2018, of course, before opening a branch, an office in China. Those are the questions: why, what, where, how, who. So here it's important to spend a few words talking about internationalization. What is an international company? International company is an organization that is that carries out one or more activities of its value chain outside the border of its country, seeking what? A competitive advantage also on an international scale. Point is that the competitive advantage is not just given by adding the local advantages also in the country where it operates. Rather, is the fact that the resources and skills developed outside of the country are shared with the headquarters. Corporate strategies define the businesses in which the company operates. When the company operates on international markets like Eurosets, the strategy is the task of defining the countries or regions in which the company will act. In our case, is China. I think that we all agree that in the recent years there's been an increase in trade, goods trades, services trade, capital trade, much higher than GDP expansion. It's also true that FDI, foreign direct investments, are still, growing in China, but also in other countries, Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, and very important, the economy, the world economy was bipolar, if I may say so, dominated by Europe and North America, US, But now it's no longer like that. So there are other players, and China is one of the biggest or the big player in the world economy. So talking about why we started our trip, our journey in China. So those are, some examples. Why? Market seeking, research seeking, efficiency seeking, knowledge learning seeking. Well, frankly, we were and we wanted to. We were looking for a market expansion, for market seeking, to improve our footprint outside of Europe, especially in Asia. And then what? This is very, very important. What means which kind of strategy? You have to choose the right strategy. Understanding how to move in the foreign country. Taking into account that there are two different forces, degree of local responsiveness and level of global integration. My opinion, if we look at the medical devices, China, so we are here. So the strategy, and that means also to reposition your company, is to become like a transactional company, because yes, there is quite mid-high level of global integration, but also you need to be very reactive to the local needs, which are slightly different from European or US markets or other markets. Then where, of course, China, you have to carry out a sort of country attractiveness assessment. You need to have very clear in your mind who are the competitors, the barriers to entry, the power of customers and suppliers, incentives, the level of taxation, public investments. The question is, does the presence in China improve my competitiveness? Resources, so if there are the infrastructures, can I get raw material, tech innovation, qualified workforces? Of course, the market, aggregate demand, economic growth. Of course, in China, needless to say, that is the first economy in terms of year-on-year growth. And also the demand is huge. We have seen before with Andrea Sorgato, the medical devices industry is huge. And then last question, which is very important, how? By export, licensing, franchising, joint venture, investments in greenfield, and very important, choosing the right partners is pivotal in the process, right from the earliest stage. And yes, in this case, Studio Tunarelli helped Eurosets a lot. Without Studio Tunarelli, we were not where we are today. The journey in China. I said before, we have a branch in Suzhou, established in 2018, 3 years ago. And when the journey started, those are sort of, steps, okay. And you have to have very clear in your mind if you want to start a business in the medical devices in China, that the go live, what the marketing guys say, go live, is a very long process that requires what? Persistence and a vision, a long-run vision. Because, and we'll see later, to go live, to start the commercialization, to bring numbers, to make the top management, the owner of the company, happy about her investment, you have to take into account that it's a very long process and you need a long-term vision. Of course, the first step is, as usual, talking with finance, okay, CFO, carry out financial and economic assessments. Of course, check indicators like net present value, IRR, the free cash flow, and much more. Second step, of course, needless to say that this is, steps. From my opinion, there is no one best way. There is one best fit, and this is very important to have, in my opinion, in your mind when starting a business in China. Then the second step is crucial. So choose local partners. You are in a new country, different culture, different language, different currency. There are many differences, and you do need local partners. To me, partners relationship, business relationship is an intangible asset, very important. And the two key factors are trust and commitment. You have to trust each other, and of course, commitment is required. Then also you have, in our case, with Generali and other companies for the registration of the products. You have to start the registrations. You have seen before with Lee, you know, all the complexity of registering a product device in a medical device, sorry, in China. After, we'll see the slide, after 2 to 3 years, or maybe 4, you start the commercialization through indirect sales. Commercialization, it's the step number 4, because to sell the goods, you need licenses. You need to get the license from an MPA. You can go indirect sales, direct sales, bidding tender. The goal is, you know, to also to improve the brand awareness of your company by doing a webinar, congresses, digital activities, and much, much more. Just a few words, because again, I'm not a technical guy, but I think that this slide is very important to understand, and again, to reinforce the message that yes, true, in China there are a lot of opportunities still worthwhile to invest in China, but the process is like that. So when you deal with medical devices, to get the license to start bringing sales numbers, you need to wait 2 years or more than 2 years if clinical trials are required. Something that's you know, some of our milestones are summarized in this slide. Since we started the registration in process in 2K14, then after 2 to 3 years, we were able to register 2 medical devices, class 3 products, 1 adult and 1 pediatric oxygenator, Skipper and Trilly. We found agreement with local partners, including Studio Generali and others. Some challenges were, of course, for us, as you know, Italian company, small, medium-sized Italian company, to understanding new procedures and also culture, addressing questions, and of course, finding reliable local partners. In this case, it was very important to find a distributor that at the beginning was in charge of being the legal agent of our products. Then, as I said before, we established an operating office, not a given, in 2K18. We got the business license. We have an office. We were able to get our own office in Suzhou. We also hired a person. We have a China staff, fantastic China staff, which is helping a lot Italy headquarters. Yes, some challenges. Yes, of course, the hiring process is slightly different than European and US, and we had the need to find the right people to work with us. Not an easy task. Also find a strategic location of our office. Then we were able to, during this journey, we strengthened the partnership with stakeholders, legal, Generali, accounting and administration, consultant for the registrations, including TigerMed. Also, we reinforce our partnership with the local institutions and MPA lab test. What was sometimes still demanding is to be able sometimes to convey the strategic value of China project to your stakeholders. Let me explain you better address this point. So there are so many companies that are trying to set up an office, a branch in China. Some of them give up after a few months because of the complexity. So as you may imagine, some stakeholders, when see so many companies that are trying to, Italian companies that are trying to set up, to open an office, to start a business, give up after a few months. So it's important, very important to every time to reinforce with your stakeholders the strategic value of China project, or for your company to expand the business in China. And of course, internally, of course, dealing with shareholders or stakeholders sometimes is not easy still, because again, the timing in China, the complexity of China is different than Europe or other countries. As I said before, we are still a small, medium-sized company. In 2020, that's a very big achievement. With the support of Andrea Sorgato and Silvio Zunarelli, we became, and also the huge work that our China staff, Penny, our QA manager, did, we became the legal agent of our medical devices, Skipper and Trilly. We took over the legal agent responsibility. We established a quality assurance system. Not easy task, creating the new procedures from scratch, and also dealing with former legal agent and explain to him why Eurosets wanted to become legal agent. Because we have a project in China. We want you to work close with our distributor, but we have an office, we have a strategy, and of course, we need to keep as much as we can the control on our products. And being the legal agent is pivotal when dealing with medical devices in China. And then we have been able also to improve our distribution channel management, also not easy task to find new commercial partners and navigating, of course, through the challenges as a newcomer. In other terms, fighting against big giants, well-known brand like Medtronic or Baxter. But at any rate, we've been able to increase our market share. Some marketing activities were done. We have found agreement, we got agreement with strategic partners, and so on. So that means in terms of numbers that we were able to increase our business in China, since we have our branch, almost 6 times more. Not a given. The future, this is the last slide, looks bright, must always looks bright, especially now with this pandemic. You must be optimistic, again, have a clear vision on what you want to do as an individual, but as a company as well. There are many projects. These are some of them. Branch upscaling. As of today, our branch in China is still a consulting, and the main focus is the registration of new products. But very soon we are going to upscale to become a trading company. That means we're going to hire more people in order to manage all the customer service as well as sale operations. We expect to receive new licenses for new products. The registrations were started a couple of months ago, to the end of 2018. Then we foresee to start the registration of new processes, of new products. The point is that we would like to have our complete portfolio in China, especially cardiopulmonary and ECLS. Sales and marketing, we have to keep increasing our market share, do a lot of promotion activities. There are plenty of promotion activity in the plan. We're going to also improve our tendering activities with the goal of become a top-tier player in cardiopulmonary and ECLS. Well, that's again, I said before, this is not very technical presentation, rather a successful story of an Italian company that achieved very good results in China. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sabatini. Thanks for the kind word. Thanks to have shared your experience with us. We must have an optimistic approach indeed. So this is the past, and we also hope for even brighter future. As I mentioned before, we would like, we have collected some questions during the speech that I would like to quickly address to the speaker of today. You mentioned, Mr. Sabatini, the importance of the position of legal agent, and actually a question for my colleague Andrea Salgato is exactly talking about this position. So, Andrea, the legal agent is the responsible entity in China. This is the question we have received from the audience. Can you please explain, maybe give a very brief overview about the position of legal agent? Thanks.
Thank you, Luigi. Well, often there is a misunderstanding about this role and this position, because of course basically this is the same framework in all countries, where if there is a foreign investor that aims to invest in another country, especially for those markets who are regulated, like medical devices, of course a foreign enterprise must have a legal agent in the concerned country in order to be represented. But the point is the liability. So the field of the responsibility that has to be borne by, on one side, the investor, which is a foreign entity, and the legal agent on the other side, which is a Chinese, so a domestic registered legal entity. The approach of the regulation is a practical approach, because the main responsibility has to be borne by the owner of the product in order to set up exhaustive system in terms of quality system, in terms of reactions, adverse events, and in terms of post-marketing traceability and surveillance. This kind of tasks has to be borne by the foreign investors, because he is the owner of the product with the assistance of the legal agent. So there is a sort of joint liability, but I would say joint liability intended not by from a legal point of view. Just any actor is responsible for its own behaviors. So towards the National Medical Product Administration, there is a direct liability borne by the legal agent, and there is also another direct liability borne by the foreign investors. So both of them have some tasks, both of them have some liabilities and rules for breaching their respective duties. So what Mr. Sabatini mentioned before, I think, is very important. If the legal agent is within the company, because this role has been covered by the Chinese branch of the foreign investor, is easier manage the relationship between these two entities, because both of them belong to the same decisional center. If the legal agent is a third party, of course, it's more difficult, and it has to be regulated in a strict way in order to avoid avoidable risks, I would say.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrea. So after understanding, let's say, the importance and the opportunity that a foreign investor can have having a legal entity in China, we have another question that actually go more deeper on this point, and I would like to address it to Mr. Li. The audience asks, how much localized in China the manufacturing of a foreign medical device will be a real opportunity for a foreign investor? So can you please give us an overview on how important, if it is, to localize the production of a medical device?
Okay, thank you. So I believe in current China regulatory aspects, the China NMPA would put more leverage on the China domestic manufacturers for the medical device, because the local provincial governments have the specific regulations and the policies for the provincial manufacturers within this specific area. So maybe you will get some more like policies on the manufacturing site on the promotion, some other kind of special policies, and also for the future selling of the medical device, the hospitals would also have more like this kind of trend to purchase the local manufacturing medical device. And also, as Mr. Sogato mentioned in his presentation, the China government also have the bulk purchase procurement policy would have more like preference on the China-made medical devices.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Lee. This confirm that, let's say, even the preferential policy are more focused on, let's say, the product and where this product is produced than if it is produced by a local investor or a foreign investor. And this, I think, is a favorable approach by the Chinese policymaker. Then finally, for Mr. Sabatini, actually, is a very wide question. So our audience would like to know which one is the most difficult challenge in your Chinese market experience. So among all the steps that we have overcome during your presentation, which one do you think will be the key challenge or the most difficult challenge for you to overcome?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that the answer is what Eurosets did, according to me. Whether it's true that we established an office there, but why? It was at the beginning and is still a consulting company, because the main focus is the registration. To get the registration, the license from NMPA is not an easy task. Of course, you need a consultant, very well-prepared consultant that can help you, support you. And yes, the most challenging part of this journey is, in my opinion, the registration of this, which is pivotal, because without the license, you cannot start selling products. And then it's difficult to talk with your top management or shareholders that, you know, the numbers, while the MVP, the net present value, looks very good, but the payback period is long, maybe 5 to 6 years. And, you know, you receive a lot of pressure in getting, you know, to start the sales operation. So it's not easy because the system in Europe is different. So we received and we have been receiving, because again we have been registering other products, so many questions from test labs, from engineers, from NMPA, and yes, sometimes it seems like a never-ending story, but again you have to be confident in your team, to empower your consultant, and also always be optimistic, and sooner or later you will receive the license. Then also the after this crucial step is not easy, you know, also the sales part, marketing, but believe me or not, but you know, the numbers speak. China is huge market also. We have seen with Mr. Sogato. So the numbers in China are so big, the return on investment is assured. But before that, you need to be able to register the products, to answer all the questions, and again, never give up.
Thank you for this, let's say, motivational speech from Mr. Sabatini.
It's important.
I would add just some word, because I completely agree on that, and I would say that it is crucial to have the company and the human resources working in the company that are, let's say, committed to develop this market, because one thing is to make the decision to try to export the product in China, and another thing is to actually dedicate not only the financial resources that of course are necessary, but to dedicate the working time, the effort, the spirit of the team to actually support this kind of procedure and this kind of project. We hope to have provided some useful information today to whoever got the time and the patience to follow us. For people that didn't succeed to follow the webinar live, we will upload in our website the registration of the event. So we know that webinars are convenient also to be used in this way. So when people will have the time, can have maybe the chance to listen again some part of the information given today, or to follow the part of the webinar that we're not able to. I thank again my colleague, Mr. Sorgato, Mr. Lee from TigerMed, and Mr. Sabatini for the useful information they share with us today. And I wish everyone a good evening for whoever is in China, and afternoon for people stay here in Italy. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, much
Thank you.
appreciated. Thank you.